What up, what up, what up? It's your girl. That needs to be the next theme song instead of that smooth lo-fi action I got. What up, the hoe? Am I stepping into the room to a light? What? Don't gas me up. I'm a Leo. I like compliments. Come on in the room. Ah, we're about to get a learn on today. Y'all, we about to be in whole class, okay? I was just reading the introduction and I was already Googling shit. Like, what the fuck? Let's get this cracking. So let me get my little stuff together while the Care Bear stroll on in. And it's taking forever to load on the Grizzam, but it's cool. It's cool. So give me a chance to get my little desk together. A little swig of the water. Give y'all time to get your book. And I'm not promoting for Amazon, but you could get it for the low, I think like $10. Okay. You could get the medical apartheid. I got it for the free. I got it for the holiday. I was like, all I want is this book, so I get my learn on. Then I read it and I was like, ooh, I'm gonna come back. Then I tried again. I got different color highlighters in here and shit. So yeah. Welcome to Real Talking Healthy Food. And hopefully this posts on the ground and we're gonna get into the business. Now while we get into the business, let me run it down just like I'm recording regular because I get so busy trying to watch who's coming in and don't nobody be coming in. So I'm just gonna go through this as if I'm just recording and uploading the video. That's how we're gonna do it, okay? So this how we're gonna structure this thing. So going forward, can I commit to the Wednesday and Thursday? I could commit to Wednesday and Thursday, just back to back one time. So we're going to read 2 chapters a week, Wednesdays and Thursdays, between 7 and 7:15. Okay, and we're going to read a chapter on each day. One chapter Wednesday, one chapter Thursday. We'll get this knocked out in the middle of by the end of Black History Month, and then we'll get us ourselves, if we like how this goes, we'll get into another book or we'll add another one and get petty for Black History Month and read a chapter out of another book, okay? So that's what I'm thinking, but we'll start with this, a chapter Wednesday and Thursday, going live from 7 to 7:15. Okay, and then we're these are the things that I want to discuss. Okay, of course we're going to discuss the goings on in the book. So we're doing a chapter a day because we're going to be pausing. Because for me, like I thought my vocab was up to par, but we're going to discuss the vocabulary. We're going to discuss how it relates to current times and how to be proactive in voicing it, as well as taking accountability and being proactive in your own health. Okay. So that's how we're going to introduce it each time that we come live. Okay. And we're going to get into the shits. Okay. So, what I'm going to advise to you, okay, if you're anything like me, I take notes for everything. Okay, you should have seen me at the dentist office. It was ridiculous. She wasn't ready. She wasn't ready for me. And I was like, hold on, let me get my notebook while you're trying to print out little papers. I was fully prepared, sis. So, yeah. So with that, if you're anything like me, you're gonna need a notebook. If you actually got the book, who you in the house, because it's easy to listen to audiobooks, which I did it with 1984. I kind of did both, but I miss the feel of picking up a book and reading it and not relying on a device. Okay. So I'm trying to remove that slowly but for surely. But notebook, the book, or a notebook and a pen, okay? Because the vocabulary is going to get gangster around here, okay? Um, I mean, even just in the introduction. The other thing that I wanted to mention as well, is that we're going to do a movie night this weekend. Okay. We'll do a movie night this weekend. And I think I'll just watch it and take notes, watch it with my family and do a live and do a step, how I do my movie nights, just blow by blow. If I don't get too bored towards the end. So, and I'll be in a more comfortable space. So I'll be, more comfortable in general. But we're gonna review American Skin. I just knew I wanted to watch it. I bought it, so we fully ready. Okay. Let me get the movie. So we just making announcements. Slide in the room, jump on that like button a couple times, and so American Skin. That's what we're gonna review this weekend. Um, and the actors are Omar Ghost Hardwick, Theo Rossi, and Bu Knapp, and then of course Nate Parker. So we're going to review that. So I like to watch it on my own, and then since I'm going to be with the fam bam, review it with them, okay, and then review it with y'all, okay. Let's see how this Instagram is cracking, so I could post it on both of them. And if I could get the other one going, then we'll be good. And we'll be good. And we could get this crack. So just give me a few ticks. Did I post it to this girl? I posted it to this one. Girl, look at my old weak ass technology skills. So it's been about 7 minutes. We just gonna keep it in the 10-minute range. Hopefully we can get some old Care Bears in the house. That's why I'm hoping this goes to my grand. Oh, nope, I did it right. I did it right. Okay, and then I'm gonna just post it again to the Real Talk and Healthy Food Instagram, which will be dismantled this weekend. Okay, or I think this weekend. My hope is this weekend, and because I gotta revive this and get the shit flowing. Because this being stagnant is not working for your girl at all. Not even a little. Let's see if I can switch them out. I can. And if I could get this one going, we could get started because it could load while we getting on our read on and stuff. Oh, shit. You hear it? The cover options kind of suck. Let me just paste that one time. All right, we in the house. Cool, finally. Okay, 9 minutes in and we ready. I had a lot going on, so y'all will be okay. It's just one person in here who don't never say who they is. I think it's a robot or a weirdo. I don't know. I ain't gonna keep talking about them because every time I do, I can't go live. So let's get into the book. Um, so this is the introduction, the American Janus of Medicine and Race. Science without conscience is the soul's, excuse me, perdition. Francois Rabelais. It's something else. Okay. So on a Sylvan stretch of New York's, Patrician Upper Fifth Avenue, just across from the New York Academy of Medicine, a colossus in marble, just there. I was like, what the hell is that? It's art. August inscriptions and a bas relief Cadius grace a memorial bordering Central Park. So that first sentence right there was a struggle for me. When I looked it up, it was art. So how come she didn't just say just old extra ancient white people art? And then we would have been like, oh, that fancy shit. Okay. Fancy shit. So anyway, the laurels venerate the Surgeon James Marion Sims, MD, as a selfless benefactor of women. So I got his picture together, and we got more about him, but I'll wait till we get to this part. Um, sorry, how about stop? A selfless benefactor of women, nor is the only statuary erected in honor of Dr. Sims. Marble monuments to his skill, benevolence, and humanity guard his native South Carolina State House, its medical school, the Alabama Capitol grounds, and the French hospital. So they got shit about him everywhere. In the Sims dedicated his career to the care and cure of women's disorders and opened the nation's first hospital for women in New York City. He attended French royalty. His Grecian facade inspired oil portraits, and in 1887, he was elected president of the American Medical Association. Hospitals still bear his name, including a West African hospital that utilizes the eponymous eponymous gynecological instruments that he first invented for surgeries upon black female slaves in the 1840s. So basically that means the instruments that they were used were in his namesake, I guess. So, but the benevolent image vies with the you see what I'm talking about? All these extra ass words, but this benevolent image vies with the detached Marion Sims portrayed in Robert Tom's Marion Sims, gynecologic surgeon, a oil representation of an experimental surgery upon his powerless slave Betsy. Sims stands aloof, arms folded, and hand holding a metroscope, the forerunner of the speculum, as he regards the kneeling woman in a coolly evaluative medical gaze. His tie and morning coat contrast with her simple servant's dress and head rag and bare feet. So here's the picture that they're referring to. Let me get uh no, let me, um 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 it don't take long and much to find it. But here she is. This is the painting that they're referring to. So it's just going to start being more descriptive here in a minute. And this here is Marion Sims with the P coat and the bow tie. And she's poor thing. The painting, commissioned and distributed by the Park Davis. Hold on, y'all. Park Davis Pharmaceutical House, more than a century after the surgeries, as one of its history of its a history of medicine and picture series, takes telling liberties with the historical facts. Tom portrays Betsy as a fully clothed, calm slave woman who kneels complacently on a table, hand modestly raised to her breast before a trio of white male physicians. Two other slave women peer around the sheet, apparently hung for modesty's sake, in a childlike display of curiosity. That's a deep ass description. Like, oh, she was just like so witted, and this is what the doctor is gonna do. And the slave's like, we don't know no better, head ass. Like, and subduing to his power, okay, right? So when really she was hella probably fucking terrified and like, hell no, I don't want you, sir. I know you the doctor that slice up coochies. So this innocuous tableau could hardly differ more from the gruesome reality in what I just said, in which each surgical scene was a violent struggle between the slaves and physicians, and each woman's body was a bloodied body ground. Each naked, anesthetized slave, meaning she didn't get no anesthesia. Slave woman had to be forcibly restrained by the other physicians through her shrieks of agony as Sims determinedly sliced, then sutured her genitalia. The other doctors who could fled when they could break the horrific scenes no longer, no, where they could bear the horrific scenes no longer. It then fell to the women to restrain one another. I wanted to reproduce Tom's painting on the cover of this book, or at least in text, but when I asked permission of its copyrights holder, Pfizer Inc., the company insisted on reviewing the entire manuscript of this book before making a decision. As an independent scholar, I could not, how did I, it was another word I had to learn, equates to this. And I used another cover image when I renewed my request to use the image within the text. Pfizer agreed um, to base its decision upon reading this chapter and an outline of the book. The Pfizer executives apparently were uncomfortable with what they read because they refused to grant permission to reproduce this telling image respond to my query after I supplied the requested chapter and outline. This act of censorship exemplifies the barriers some choose to erect in order to veil history of an unconscionable medical research with blacks. Betsy's voice has been silenced by history. But as one reads Sims' biographers and his own memoirs, a haughty, self absorbed researcher emerges. Deep. So, oh shit. So, although she's silenced and they try to make it seem like, oh, she was just a willing participant in a medical experiment, really what you find out is he was a self-absorbed weirdo who had an obsession with slicing up slaves' coochie. Facts, bars, man. So a man who bought black women slaves and addicted them to morphine in order to perform dozens of exquisitely painful, distressingly intimate vaginal surgeries. Not until he had experimented with with his surgeries on Betsy and her fellow slaves for years did Sims essay to cure white women. They use that word hella weird. Usually you write an essay. Betsy and her fellow slaves for years did Sims' essay to cure white women. Hmm. Was Sims a survivor? Was Sims a savior or a sadist? Referring to the doctor, okay? It depends, I suppose, on the color of the women you ask. Hmm. Marion Sims epitomizes the two faces, one benign, one malevolent, excuse me, malevolent of American medical research. He's definitely both. I mean, you got to be a sadistic weirdo, right? To wake up in the morning like, yeah, I'm about to get up in that coochie the wrong way, right? And then in the future in today's day, even in today's time, women are dying from black women are dying from giving birth, different vaginal issues that either go undiagnosed or misdiagnosed, right? Or uh over, they extra just doing surgeries that don't even make sense without any other option. There's no option for us in some regards. So we really gotta like acknowledge that and take our power, right? So of all forms of inequality, injustice, and health is the most shocking and most inhumane. In 1965, Martin Luther King Jr. Spoke these words in Montgomery, Alabama, at the end of the Selma to Montgomery March that had been, excuse me, attended by the black and white physicians of the Medical Committee for Human Rights. King had invited the doctors not only to give medical succor to injured marchers, but also to witness the abuse suffered at the hands of the segregationists. Excuse me. With these almost delegated, hold on, with these almost unnoticed words, King ushered in a new era in civil rights because as delegate to, excuse me, because as delegate to Congress, Donna Christensen, MD, chair of the Congressional Black Caucus Health Brain Trust, has declared health disparities are the civil rights issues of the 21st century. I need some water. Of the 21st century. I read faster when I read quietly. Okay. Thus, Dr. King's alarm over racial health injustice was present, and were he alive today, his concern would be redoubled. Facts. Mounting evidence of the racial health divide confronts us everywhere we look, from double black infant death rates to African American life expectancies, the fall years behind whites, that fall years behind whites. Infant mortality of African Americans is twice that of whites, and black babies born in more racially segregated cities have higher rates of mortality. The life expectancy of African Americans is as much as a 6 year less than a white's. Old measures of health not only have failed to improve significantly, but have stayed the same. Some have even worsened. Mainstream newspapers and magazines, goodness, often report disease and, oh shit, here we go, ethnocentric man, in an ethnocentric manner that sounds it's true almost among that shrouds its true almost among African Americans. I feel like, have y'all ever seen Losing Isaiah when Halle Berry was reading that part and she was like vegetables? That's how I feel like. Cause this have to work, bitch. I read all day. Shit. Read all day. I work. Shit. All right, here we go. Let me get a little help. All measures of health not only have failed to improve significantly, but have stayed the same. Some have even worsened. Mainstream newspapers and magazines often report disease in an ethnocentric manner that shrouds its true cost among African Americans. For example, Despite the heavy emphasis on genetic ailments among blacks, fewer than 0.5% of black deaths, that's less than one death in 200, can be attributed to hereditary disorders such as sickle cell anemia. A closer look at the troubling numbers reveals that blacks are dying not of exotic or incurable, poorly understood illnesses, nor of genetic diseases that target only them, but rather from common ailments that are more often prevented and treated among whites than among blacks. Super facts. Super facts. Poorly. Right. They always do it just like with the woman, right? Just like we ain't got a new one for that. But just like what's going on now, they got more blacks got this shit than them, right? And they always be like, it's always some exotic, incurable, poorly understood illness. You know what I mean? So, I forgot my other point. Mm-mm-mm. And generally, like they always say, um, it's not the disease that's hereditary; it's the habits and the diet that's hereditary, that get picked up amongst generations, like smoking and drinking, and that's not in your genetics. That shit is not real. Bad eating habits and shit, that's passed down through to tradition and habit and being ill informed, right? So when you're informed, you try to make the attempt to do the opposite of what the fuck you've been taught, right? So 3 times as many African Americans were diagnosed with diabetes in 1993 as in 1963. This rate, case in point, this rate is nearly twice of that of white Americans and is sorely underestimated. The real black diabetes rate is probably double that of whites. As with most chronic diseases, African Americans suffer more complications, including limb loss, blindness, kidney disease, and terminal heart disease. Cancer, the nation's second greatest killer, is diagnosed later in blacks and carries off proportionately more African Americans than white. African Americans suffer the nation's highest rate of cancer and cancer deaths. Ooh, I just had a little story. Nikki's mom, man. The distortion of African American deaths. Do I look cute when I read like this? No. Death rates as illustrated by the common dismissal of black women's breast cancer risk as lower than white women's. The characterization implies that Black women are at a low risk from breast cancer, but the risk is only slightly lower because the estimated lifetime risk of the developing breast cancer is 10 per 100 for white women born in 1980 and even 7 per 100 for Black women born that year. Moreover, the lower risk of developing breast cancer is overshadowed by Blacks' much higher risk of dying from it. 86% of white women with breast cancer are alive 5 years later. Only 71% of Black women survive that long, and Black women in 2.2 times as likely as white women to die of breast cancer. Black women have been undergoing mammograms at the same rate as white women, or are more likely to receive poor quality screening, which may not detect the cancer in time for a cure. A Black woman is also more likely to develop her cancer before age 40, too early for recommended mammograms to catch it, and Black women are diagnosed at a more advanced stage than other Hispanic or white breast cancer patients. Black breast, ca- Black breast cancer patients have a worse overall prognosis and are and a worse prognosis at each stage. Black men have the nation's highest rates of developing and dying from prostate and lung cancers. Damn. Despite its Despite its image as a disease that affects middle aged white men, heart disease claims 50% of more African Americans than whites, and African Americans die from heart attacks at a higher rate than whites. African Americans are more likely to develop serious liver ailments such as hepatitis C, the chief cause of liver transplants. They are also more likely to die from liver disease, not because any of the inherent racial susceptibility, but because blacks are less likely to receive aggressive treatment with drugs such as interferon or life-saving liver transplants. Even the legion of newest illnesses emerging, even the legion of newest illnesses emerging, disease such as HIV, AIDS, and hepatitis C kills blacks at a much high rates than whites. AIDS, the scourge of our time, has become, excuse me, y'all, a disease of people of color here on and abroad. 49% of HIV infected Americans are, excuse me, African Americans, and 80% of children with AIDS are African Americans or Hispanic. Blacks are 10 times as likely to develop AIDS as white. That even goes to prove that movie, that documentary, House of Numbers, even more right. We need to do that too. House of Numbers is next, y'all. House of Numbers. Now that's going to be a hard one on the strength that it's so much to back research that I did when I watched it the first time. But that was years ago and I done forgot going forward. Mental ailments are destroying blacks as well. Black women suffer the highest rates of stress and major depression in the nationwide, and suicide rates soared 200% among young black men within just 20 years. These are dire statistics born of complex interactions among unhealthy environments, social pressures and limitations, lifestyle factors, and limited access to healthcare, including very limited access to cutting edge therapeutic is not how she got it. Medical research that is meant to help treat or cure a patient with a disorder. But excuse me, this dearth of therapeutic research is accompanied by a plethora of non-therapeutic research with African Americans, which is meant to investigate medical issues for the benefit of future patients or of medical knowledge. That sounds like a plot. It sounds almost like it's intentional. So you could see, oh, almost like how they use, like especially with the medical records, does you or your family got a history, a la 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 la. I think it falls in line with that. So if you like, yeah, like if you in the doctors and you like, yeah, this, yeah, that, to a whole lot of shit, like if you watch House of Numbers, because how these instructions are is environment, everything is included during these testings, okay? So it's not just like, oh, I feel kind of bad. Okay, it's not only that, but you black, you live in the hood, you work wherever, you fall in this borderline or whatever weirdo cutoff it is, right? That's why certain things aren't accessible to us. Even myself, like I got my like good ass insurance, right? But I can't. I'm trying to Google what kind of insurance does Beyonce got, or is she just paying straight cash? I mean, I want to know. You know what I'm saying? What kind of insurance they got? Or are they paying straight cash? Or is it completely covered? Like, where do we go, right? The common regular person to get that top notch shit. You know what I'm saying? Where we pull up to the hospital, we on deck too. Because I know if that's the case and it's readily available, then 40% of us will be pulling up and paying what we need to pay to get what we need to get. So we don't kick the bucket when we pull up to the motherfucking hospital and shit. Or you either show your black ass in that goddamn hospital until and you bring somebody with you, or take preventative measures. I don't know. Whatever you got to do, just go with the feeling, okay? But I'm just saying, from my experiences, don't listen to me, okay? This is for entertainment purposes only, okay? Uh, okay, so. But it do sound like a plot, though. And this brings us to the subject of this book, which documents a peculiar type of injustice in health. The troubled history of medical, I might need my glasses, y'all, of medical experimentation with African Americans and the resulting behavioral fallout that causes researchers and African Americans to view each other through jaundice eyes. Okay, that's hella descriptive. In his 1909 preface to The Doctor's Dilemma, George Bernard Shaw scathingly observed the tragedy, and she quotes, "The tragedy of illness at the present is that okay, y'all. Hold on, y'all. The tragedy of illness at present is that it delivers you helplessly into the hands of a profession which you deeply mistrust." He could have been, end quote, he could have been speaking for contemporary African Americans because his studies and surveys repeatedly confirm that no other group as deeply mistrusts the American medical system, especially medical research. The problem is growing. As the Wall Street Journal observed several years back, it has been a good time for scientists who experiment on people or the people they experiment on. This is a masterpiece of an understatement, especially if you consider the recent history of medical research with African Americans. The Offices for Protection from Research Risks, okay, so they got a, what you call it, OPRR, has been busily investigating abuses at more than 60 research centers, including experimentation related deaths at premier universities from Columbia to California. Another important subset of human subject abuse has been scientific fraud, wherein scientists from the University of South Carolina to MT have also been found to have lied through falsified data or fictitious research agendas, often in the service of research that abuse Black Americans. Within recent years, the OPRR has also suspended research at such revered universities as Alabama, Pennsylvania, Duke, Yale, and even Johns Hopkins. Damn. Many, many studies controlled only. Oh, so. They don't want, so they canceled that shit because they started researching the factuals from the universities when the experiments were conducted. And so they halted that shit because they didn't want to be motherfucking exposed. Because let's keep moving. Many studies enrolled only or excuse me, principally African Americans, although some included okay, of Hispanics. They must have been dark ones, huh? Damn, we still in the damn introduction. They're about the same amount of pages. So we'll do the introduction, and then tomorrow we'll do chapter one, okay? Because we still got hella to go, and your girl goes to bed early. So yeah, they're the same amount of pages. It's 20 something pages. Let's just stop here and just take a look, okay? Because I started looking at the time. 22. Yep, about the same. So yeah, introduction, chapter 1. Yeah. Okay, cool, cool, cool. All right. Although some included a smattering of Hispanic, some research studies specifically included white subjects according to the terms of their official protocols. The federally required plans that detail how research studies are conducted. However, in other human medical experiments, the recruitment of blacks and the poor, I'm sorry, y'all, and the poor is a tactic featured of the study because they recruit subjects from heavily black inner city areas that tend to surround American teaching hospitals. Boom, shakalaka. Tariq Nasheed was right off in that Hidden Colors 2, I think it was, when he was talking about the King Arthur plan and how that, and he also spoke how all a lot of the hospitals and trauma centers and shit are in the hood and shit. He talked about that. I'm probably not saying it right, but it's true. Like every time you go to the hood, you see the downtown. You see the downtown, you see the hood, you know what I'm saying? And you see the hospitals. They're always adjacent to each other. But the cities are flipping that now because in most cities, whatever used to be the hood is finna be the burbs, and whatever is the burbs is about to be the hood. So they about to swap it out, y'all. So by the time we owe what used to be the hood, it's gonna be Starbucks and flip flops everywhere. If the new order ain't already fully in place. Okay. However, in other human medical experiments, the recruitment of blacks, okay, is a tactic. American university research centers have historically been located in dis- disproportionate number of these abuses have involved experiments with African Americans, like the drive-bys and shit. These subjects were given experimental vaccines known to have unacceptably high lethality, were enrolled in experiments without their consent or knowledge, were subject to surreptitious. Y'all, we gotta bust it out. Hold on. Girl, I'm not even gonna act like I know how to say that word. Okay, you spell it SURREPT. Oh, here it is. And surreptitious. And it means kept secret, especially because it would not be approved of. Oh shit. Surreptitious. Surreptitious. Okay, so we're enrolled in experiences without their consent. We're subjected to surreptitious. How come she just didn't say to secret surgical? Well, make she gotta sound like hella educated and shit. So we're subject to surreptitious surgical and medical procedures while unconscious. Now I know how my customers feel when they be like, well, what do you mean by accommodated accordingly? I mean accommodated accordingly. Like you'll be taken care of in the measure that is what's the word I'm losing? In a manner that is equivalent to your need, bitch. I don't know. But anyway. Well, okay, so we're gonna run that sentence back because we had to Google the word. We're subjected to surreptitious surgical. Hold on. Surreptitious. We're subjected to surreptitious surgical and medical procedures while unconscious, injected with toxic substances deliberately monitored rather than treated for deadly ailments. That's fucking ill. So they gave them these ill ass chemicals while they were unconscious instead of treating what the fuck they came in there for. Excluded from life saving treatments or secretly farmed for ser- what the hell is that? Sera or tissues that were used to perfect technologies such as infectious disease tests. What the fuck is that? Amber colored protein rich liquid that separates out when blood coagulates. The blood serum of an animal used especially to provide immunity to a pathogen or a toxin by inoculation or as a diagnostic agent of an animal. Are you sure? Are you sure? The clear yellowish fluid obtained upon separating whole blood into its solid and liquid components after it has been allowed to clot, also called blood serum. Shit, so yuck. So they farmed the black folks for sera or tissues that were used to perfect technologies such as infectious disease tests. A few African American medical institutions have suffered their own run ins with federal oversight agencies concerned about how they treated their own research subjects. Not bad. But the considerable concern raised by governmental oversight agencies has been dwarfed by the periodic hue and cry raised in the popular press. The news media seize upon and decry new experimental abuses with regularity. So basically, the media ignores the cries of Black folks. Moreover, it is newspapers, not research oversight organizations, that have been instrumental in unveiling and ending egregious abuses from the Tuskegee syphilis study in the 1970s to the 1996 jailing of poor Black mothers who were unwitting research subjects in South Carolina, to the 1998 infusion of the poor Black New York City boys with the cardiotoxic drug fenfluramine. What the fuck? Fenfluramine? Fenfluramine. City boys. Hold on, we got to see this, y'all. Hold on. Oh, it says funeral. Fenfluramine. Fenfluramine. Where is that? Fenfluramine. I gotta see. Fenfluramine. Fin as in fentanyl. Fuel as in the law. Remain. Was an appetite suppressant which was used to treat obesity. It was used both on its own and in combination with phentermine as part of the anti-obesity medication Fen-Phen. In June 2020, fenfluramine was approved for medical use in the United States with an indication to treat Dravet syndrome. Okay. Wow, that's ill. Okay. However, newspapers and magazines have given such abuses as episodic rather than analytic treatment. So that means they did it as entertainment, right? Rather than taking the seriousness of what the issue is. Like, oh, those one black boys over there, they went through la la la. Not like, oh, Becky had taken the vaccine and oh my God, she passed out, right? Where you remember, oh girl, she got the vaccine and she's fucked up. Oh, it's because I faint on the time. Meanwhile, she disappears and no, don't nobody know where she really at. In comparison to the nurse in Tennessee whose face dropped and is all fucked up. So that's what that means, okay? Mm-mm, mm-mm. And it makes you feel so helpless. You know what I'm saying? That's why I need my pen because I'm losing my place. Got it. I'm looking for that. Mm-mm. Expending their right. Okay, so a episodic rather than an analytic treatment, expending their outrage, then falling silent until the next wave of research deaths, missing consent, missing consent forms, or unwitting subject steals headlines. Mm. Subjects are often identified not as Black, but using coded references as the urban poor or socioeconomically disadvantaged. Socioeconomically disadvantaged. Wow. Inner city residents. This episodic approach treats the exploitation of Black experimental subjects as isolated events, so that while the repeated reports buttress buttress widespread distrust of medical research, the stories fail to discern the stubborn and illuminating patterns characterizing the medical abuse of African Americans. That's fucking crazy and true. In fact, the news media often fails to perceive unethical experimentation, even as they write about it. Scientists promulgate novel drugs and technologies, such as Norplant, used among adolescents, such as Norplant use among adolescents, and psychosurgery for rioters as new therapies that are necessarily extreme remedies, but despite the treatment's untried nature and the vulnerability of their subjects. The news media often swallows such euphemistic labels as breakthrough and new therapy. Hold on. Why, when I read it to myself, it was extra easier, but when I read it out loud, it was like extra struggly. So I'm going to read through that again in case y'all was like, what, bitch? In fact, the news media often fail to perceive unethical experimentation even as they write about it. Scientists promulgate novel drugs and technologies such as Norplant use among adolescents and psychosurgery for rioters as new therapies that are necessarily extreme remedies. But despite the treatment's untried nature and the vulnerability of their subjects, the news media often swallow such euphemistic labels as breakthrough and new therapy whole. Research is utterly essential and desirable component of treatment, but its subject must be aware that they are participating must be informed, must consent, and must be allowed to weigh the possible risk and benefits. As this book will show, these conditions are very haphazardly met, or not at all, when the subjects are African Americans. Wow. Historic, a historical vacuum. The experimental exploitation of African Americans is not an issue of the last decade or even the past few decades. Dangerous, involuntary, and non therapeutic experimentation upon African Americans has been practiced widely and documented extensively at least the 18th century. Attempts to understand the distrust this history generates are confused and distorted because few know its facts beyond a few off-cited experimental outrages, notably the Tuskegee syphilis study, history of medicine courses, medical museums, and even much medical scholarship have leave one unaware of the long tragic history of the medical research with African Americans. There are fine books that address more general issues in the history of African Americans in medicine. These include The History of the Negro in Medicine by Herbert M. Marias, Making a Place for Ourselves by Vanessa Northington Gamble, MD, and The Sweepingly Ambitious and American Health Dilemma by Doctors Linda Clayton and Michael Bird. Other works deal with discrete instances of African American experimental exploitation, such as James Jones' Bad Blood and Susan Revere's Tuskegee's Truth. The Plutonium Files by Elaine Walsam fictitiously details government radiation experiments in a gripping Posey, Bones in the Basement by Robert Blakely and Judith Harrington documents the archaeological evidence that revealed, okay, how the Medical College of Georgia used stolen African American bodies for physician training. Did I just read what I just read? How the Medical College of Georgia used stolen African American bodies for physician training? That is fucking not only disgusting, but fucking heartless. Um, that threw me for a loop, and my neighbor pulls up with that stupid ass bass, and it's just super distracting from whatever I'm doing. Okay, let's move on, y'all. Hornblum's Acres of Skin chronicles experimentation in Philadelphia's Holmesburg prison complex, and The Treatment by Martha Stevens does the same with Cincinnati's radiation experiments. Most of the abuses detailed in these books targeted African Americans. Killing the Black Body by Dorothy Roberts includes research in its examination of the reproductive constraints on African American women in a historical context, and Charlotte M. Fett's Working Cures and Todd Savett's Medicine and Slavery are seminal histories of antebellum medicine that discuss research issues, but not exclusively. Not only are these words, like when you read them out loud, tongue tying, the information that you digest when you eventually get what you the fuck you just read is hella fucking disturbing. Like, what the fuck, man? Let's keep it moving. Let's get through this. Tell me to stop stopping. A few scholars have devoted books to research with Black folks abroad, such as Clarence Lustain's Find Hitler's, excuse me, Find Hitler's Black Victims, Wolfgang U. Ekert's Medicine und Kolonialapalala. Okay? Apparently, Lisa doesn't like language. Okay, let's see if we can do it. Colonial Imperialismus, Medicine und Colonial Imperialismus. Wolfgang Eckert. So he's from one of the one places. On medical colonialism in Germany's African holdings. Yep, I knew it was. And Jan Bart Goodwalt's Herrero, also he's Spanish, Herrero Heroes on the German, I don't know, medical abuse of Namibia's Herero people. I didn't even know there was a Herero people. But none of the works listed above attempts anything like the comprehensive history of racial war research wars. There have been no inclusive treatments of African American medical research and only a few books on discrete aspects of that history. Focusing on history in a single prison, a single archaeological discovery of African American bones in a medical school basement, a single experiment with syphilitic men, or a single radiation experiment. Why? History is written by the victors, warned Churchill, and a Nigerian proverb issues a similar caveat. Don't let the lion tell the giraffe's story. The history of the medicine has been written by medical professionals and also and so reflects their points of view. The experimental suffering of Black Americans has taken many forms: fear, profound deception, psychological trauma, pain, injection with deadly agents, disfigurement, crippling, chronic illness, undignified display, intraceable pain, stolen fertility, and death. None reflect well upon their medical practitioners. So, this experimental abuse often has been downplayed or misrepresented as therapy in the medical and popular literature. This book reveals these tendencies as well as the lack. No wonder Pfizer wasn't fucking with it, the lack of objectivity and sensitivity with which African Americans' fears are often greeted, and the social and cultural reasons for the lack of common ground. Period.com. I need to read that sentence to my mom why she's so thirst for the meds, the vaccines, why she's so thirst for the vaccines. Case in point, I don't know about you, man. I don't know what you came to do, but I ain't clapping no hands or stumping no feet because I ain't taking that shit. And so I don't know what you come to do. Oh, okay. One time for your mind. Okay. Uh, yeah, they're not gonna get your girl. This book reveals the American, okay, social culture, blah 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 blah. Okay, so the slave appropriated by physicians for experimental surgeries, the impoverished clinic patient operated upon to devise. Why am I reading like that again? The slave appropriated by physicians for experimental surgeries, the impoverished clinic patient operated upon to devise or demonstrate a surgical technique The sharecropper whose body is spirited from the morgue for dissection, the young girl whose fertility is stolen via an untested contraceptive technique, or a Mississippi appendectomy. It's a quote. Involuntary sterilization. And that shit happened in, it was either North Carolina or South Carolina, but they touched on it a bit on that. What the fuck is that called? What was the name of that movie? It was a big vegan movie. I forgot the name of it, but they touched on it on that because the black folks lived on this pig farm, and then it kind of had this trickling effect. But if you look up, oh man, um how they made how they sterilized those people, the elders, it was back in the 1950s, and they didn't even know that they was being sterilized. So this must be that too, but I know what I was reading, or the documentary I was watching, was based in another state. It was in one of the Carolinas, so it's ill. Well, it's Mississippi. I'm scared of Mississippi. I could feel the spirits when I drive through. But anyway, the soldiers, prisoners, and children who find themselves without options when government physicians foist novel medications and techniques upon those with little legal protection. All these African Americans and many more have found themselves voiceless as medical lines have chosen to present this research in a okay, we might have to Bowlerized manner. What the fuck is that? Debo, rest in peace, Debo ass way. I mean, Bowlerized. We gonna have to look it up. I ain't gonna act like I know what how to say it. I ain't gonna act like I know what it means. I ain't gonna act like I know none of that. How you spell it? Bowdlerized. How do you say it? Bowdlerized. Bowdlerized. Oh, bowdlerized. Having had material considered improper or offensive removed, have chosen to present this research in a bowdlerized manner, a bowdlerized version of the story. I need a simple way. Modifying parts considered indelicate, indelicate, indelicate. These motherfuckers omitting or modifying parts considered harsh, motherfucker. You know what I'm saying? Like, come on. Ah, okay. The oral histories of medical abuse voiced by African Americans are often dismissed as mythological, but without objective proof, this label. African Americans' personal stories and familial histories of abuse have rarely surfaced in the medical literature or in popular literature. Oh shit, I need my thing again. Popular literature. This is not surprising because African Americans were not well represented in these canons until fairly recently. Why should we give the physician medical narratives more credence than the numerous contentions of slaves, sharecroppers, and contemporary African Americans that they have been subjected to abusive medical research? Facts. Why should we? Until now, the discussion has suffered greatly from our Western literary bias, which encourages us to believe planters and physicians' writings about the health and medical issues of African Americans, but to give insufficient weight to a rich oral history passed down by African Americans. Rich oral history. And don't go to that one hospital, nigga, because you ain't gonna come back. That's what shit means. And that's why we got real talking healthy food. Because, Sometimes you just gotta say it how it is. You see how she used these words? I could have summed up all this whole introduction in 3 sentences. Don't trust them new niggas over there. Bam. Okay. Okay. Why should we give the physician medical? Blah, blah, blah. She asked that question to us. Until now, the discussion has suffered greatly from our Western literary bias. African American, a history that has preserved the memory of medical abuses. History that's preserved it, right? Like when they kept trying to press me with that Rona shit, and really I had sepsis and could have totally died. Yeah, that part. Um, we quite logically cede medical authority to medical experts, but this book will illustrate how race, culture, and economics trumped medical have been trumped medical and scientific truths at every turn. It will make the case that physicians had every motive to skew narratives against their black subjects, not because they were especially racist or unfair, although many were, but because the culture of American medicine has mirrored the larger culture that encompassed enslavement, segregation, and less dramatic forms of racial inequity. Bias against African American medical narratives emanates from culture and politics, including the Western literary bias against oral history. So I mean, because they talking from the heart, they talking from the spirit. You know what I'm saying? Because slaves were forbidden to read and segregated educational institutions perpetuated illiteracy and undereducation. Black Americans, how long we been in here? An hour? Oh, cool. We're going to be done in a minute because I'm going to breeze through this. Hey, y'all. What up, though? Damn, I miss all that. That not telling the whole truth. You know that. They never do. Oh, hi, my guy. Yang yang head ass. Okay, what's up, Katrina girl? We in here. So I hope y'all got y'all books. You got your notepad. We had to learn words and everything. So hit that like, share if you care, share if you dare. We trying to get through the introduction. Okay. And so I'm just gonna continue on through the rest. We on page 10, okay? On the at the top of the chapter, right? Right. Okay. Contributing to historical understanding of their role in American medicine were dwarfed or silenced. Finally, physicians' accounts carefully inculcated beliefs about Black fearlessness, credulousness, emotional instability, and a tendency toward falsehoods that help to discount claims of abuse. So they basically used our fears against us. You know what I'm saying? The resulting Why do they got these stupid words, man? Lucane Laucane. Hold on, y'all. She's just showing out. She's showing out because Pfizer didn't let her use that picture. So she's like, "Oh yeah, you trying to front on me because I'm a sister and I'm hella educated? Let me use all these words that I gotta make my people Google to complete a sentence, y'all." An unfulfilled space or interval, a gap. Okay, y'all. How do we say it? Lacuna. Hold on. Lacuna. Okay, I didn't think you would say that at all. The resulting lacunae, but lacunae. So it's spelled with the A-E at the end, right? Here it's spelled with the U-N-A. So that, I guess, is the basis of the word. So it has to be Latin or some shit. So right here. So that means plural. So Lucane I, because when you're reading fungi and shit like that. Okay, because that has to be how it's pronounced. Yeah, Lucane I, because it's A-E at the end. So that means it's multiple. So then that makes that okay. The resulting Lucane I at American medical history feed erroneous assumptions about blacks medical wearing. She's ill. She's ill. So she jumped into their jargon and shaded them. Did y'all peep that sentence? The resulting Lucane I in American medical history feed in the American medical history feed erroneous assumptions about blacks medical wariness. Mm-mm. And almost innate resistance to all medical research is ascribed to all African Americans. Often, the fear of becoming an abused, unwitting subject is laid to one signal in instance of abuse. Or is laid to one single instance of abuse. The Tuskegee syphilis study, rather than to in centuries long of such abuse. So they try to make it seem like, oh, it was that one time, when really it got you, your partner, your sister, your mom, dude, your brother, your father, he already died, and your uncle. That's what that means. Fortunately, the facts recorded by researchers and scientists themselves in medical journals, texts, speeches, and memoirs buttress buttress African American claims for several reasons. Until 3 or 4 decades ago, these researchers were speaking only to their like-minded peers, other whites, usually male and rarely of the lower classes. So uppity, preppy white boys who were beyond privilege got to school because their daddy went to school and his daddy went to school and his daddy went to school, and they probably married a couple of their cousins, so they keep it in the family and keep the money going. You feel what I'm saying? Like the royals. You feel me? Like that. That's what she meant by that, y'all, in case you was lost. Because, let's keep it a buck. They could afford to be frank. Blacks were barred from many medical schools and training programs, and newspaper and magazine reporters rarely read medical publications pursued by specially trained medical men of means. There was very little danger any blacks would read medical accounts because in the antebellum period, black literacy was banned by law, and illiteracy persisted beyond slavery. Therefore, a doctor could be open about buying slaves for experiments or locating or moving hospitals to areas where blacks furnished bodies for experimentation and dissection. Doesn't that make you grouchy? That just pissed me off. Did that just piss you off? That just pissed me off. So them bitches set up shop in the hood so they can experiment on us. Okay, hold on. Public health service physician Thomas Murrell could brashly insist in the 1940s, and I quote, the future of the Negro lies more in the research laboratory than in the schools. Pause. When diseased, he should be registered and forced to take treatment before he offers his diseased mind and body on the altar of academic and professional education. End quote. Oh my God, that's a racist motherfucker. Even more recently, the segregated nature of U.S. medical training emboldened some physicians to speak with candor, misusing Black subjects. In a quote, It was cheaper to use niggers than cats because they were everywhere and cheap experimental animals. Neurosurgeon Harry Bailey, MD, reminisced in the 1960s speech he delivered while at Tulane Medical School. Oh my God. And these are the doctors that they revere while studying. That's ill. He said it was cheaper to use a nigger than a cat. That's what he said. That was a quote. What up, though, Annette? Thanks for pulling up. Oh my God, can you believe he said that? Hey, let me just shout everybody out. Street Geek. Hey, make sure you watch that podcast because it's good stuff there. Um, Katrina Bina, what up though? Annette Shields, word. Okay, so let's keep reading on. We are still on page 10 because these words are ill. I can't believe he said that. But as societal attitudes changed, so did physician reticence. So I'm guessing that's a different term for resistance, the way it's spelled. And most became more circumspect, however, and became more circumspect. I guess they were slowly but for surely changing. I'm not sure. However, as late as 1995, radiation scientist Clarence Lushbaugh, MD, explained that he and his partner Eugene Sagner, MD, chose slum patients as radiation subjects because these persons don't have any money and they are black and they are poorly washed. In the quote. This book will document numerous instances of such shocking frankness on the part of white researchers and physicians when they are thought that nobody outside of their peer group was listening. Oh, they getting exposed? In the course of explaining what constitutes exploitative experimentation. I hate when she puts those two words together. Exploitative experimentation, medical apartheid will explain the meaning and nature of informed consent and the differences between therapeutic and non therapeutic research. It traces the delicate balance between experimental risk and benefit because symbiosis, not complete freedom from harm, is the therapeutic goal. Excuse me, is the therapeutic goal, a goal that often eludes African Americans. The individual chapters also supply general background on how experimental practices evolved over the periods covered in this book and how laws and institutional review boards now protect volunteers, albeit still imperfectly. Finding the truth in plain sight. Okay, we ain't almost done, but we get in there. Hey, Shandigan. Finding the truth in plain sight. It is medical researchers themselves who have documented the proof of this long, unhappy history of African Americans, such as excuse me, Americans as research subjects. Even so, this history has been a challenge to document because it has been hidden in plain sight, widely scattered, distorted, and rendered all but unrecognizable as abuse by heavy editorializing. As I recall the years I've spent ferreting out these experiments bit by bit, examining their patterns, and probing the mindsets that they revealed, I am put in the mind of legal discovery process. Of the legal discovery process. Whoa, okay, okay. I feel that. So it's because she's looking at this and like, oh, hold up, I'm seeing this here, I'm seeing this there. Oh, he was like that. Oh, he was a fuckhead. Oh, he was a ass. And then putting it together. Word, okay. I see it. Girl, I'll be losing my spot when I get hyped when I understand. Goal African indicates individuals practice evolve over periods of covering this book and how laws. She said she done put her law degree hat on while she was researching, okay? Let me find my spot, y'all. Let me find my spot. I always lose my spot. Okay. A favorite ploy is to provide the opposing side with all the information it seeks, buried in the towering mountains of unrelated or tangible, tangible, because or tangible related documents. Similarly, I have pursued dusty antebellum medical journals, the Surgeon's Journals Index, its successor, the Medicine Database, physicians' memoirs, and literary efforts, slave narratives, and painfully picked my way through foreign publications in alien tongues that are sometimes more forthcoming than domestic publications about the history of our medical of minority groups. Damn. Mining the bright but thin loads with these resources, I gradually amassed a cache of evidence. As previously hidden, experimental exploits come to light. Some have challenged the characterization of such research as a secret, noting that it oh, noting that the reports were published in medical and scientific journals that can be read by anyone. But these critics would do well to weigh. Oh, okay. Would do to well Marcel Pagnol's definition of secrecy. Oh, okay. But these critics would do well to weigh Marcel Pagnol's definition of secrecy. A secret is not something unrevealed, but told privately in a whisper. So let me keep my spot. So he basically like, I mean, it's not a secret, but if you don't know these big ass words we using right now, then you ain't gonna know what we talking about. Therefore, it's not a secret. It's just like you don't know. Like, shut the fuck up. What the fuck is his name? Marcel. Oh, I know your wife ugly. Until the past few decades, descriptions in medical publications of experimentation with African Americans were shielded from the eyes uninitiated of the uninitiated. Generalized professional journals such as the Journal of American Medical Association and the New England Journal of Medicine, which are very much popular right now to this day, and many medical people refer to that as of now, are not available in bookstores or newsstands, but it is available. Specialized medical journals were even less accessible, oh, they're saying at that time. And access was even more restricted in the past decades. The medical libraries that house these journals have historically been closed to the public, and most remain so. Indeed, I have been challenged while entering such libraries while a student or an instructor at various northern universities. Okay, okay. I'm struggling, but I'm getting there, okay? Moreover, physical access to such journals would constitute only the first hurdle. The medical jargon in which such research papers are couched is often in it don't penetrate your brain. Let's see, impenetrable, impenetrable. Yeah, man. That's why we reading more Real Talk and Healthy Food. Hold on, y'all. Yeah. Here we go. How do we say this? Impossible to pass through. Impenetrable. Okay. Okay. Hold on, let me get a little tissue. Sorry, y'all. Okay. Impenetrable. Impenetrable. So can't penetrate, fool. Lost my spot. Is she right? I mean, even reading this reference book of knowledge is impenetrable. What he said. Impenetrable. Even just reading this, the jargon, the terminology in this book is fucking ridiculous, you know? And I think, but she had to show out because she is sister, you know what I mean? So, and she's not on the light side. She's like the medium side, so she black in their eyes, you know what I mean? Even to well-educated non-medical people. So the medical jargon in which the research papers are couched is often impenetrable even to well-educated non-medical people. Okay, us in this group, all four of us. But some of the people central, get down, Taco. Medical research have been more generous with their knowledge. Scores of researchers, physicians, and research subjects have shared their time and expertise and added depth to my understanding of the cultural divergence that has fed this history. Often they told me more than they realized. For example, a duality has persisted, as I have learned from them more than the facts, a scientifically questionable and ethically troubled medical research. Whether we are discussing the etiology of um, tuberculosis, hold on, I forgot how to say this, y'all. Uh, Gynecological surgery or the implication of census health statistics. These sources have conveyed to me Warsash, war, girl. So that must be some sort of dictator up in the north in some kind of German Schlurman area. Hold on, y'all. Hold on. Because they like to put a whole bunch of consonants together and get y'all sklosh. Dang, hold on, y'all. Oh, the Warsash test. Hold on. War something test, y'all. Y'all know
Rorschach test.
Rorschach test. The paintings. Let me show y'all a picture.
Psychological evaluation.
Hold on. This is what that is. Y'all who let me just stay in my lane. Where you look at the picture and I would be like, oh, that's a demon. That's an upside down coochie x-ray or a picture of a demon. That's a bat. You feel me? And then if you read that, they base where you at mentally on what you perceive the picture to be. All right. Rorschach test. So, okay, these sources convey to me a Rorschach like divergent medical worldviews. Oh, so she means basically it just depends on your perspective of things. You know what I'm saying? So, but they're trying to categorize it, categorize it based on an open-ended test result, right? And that's basically however that person perceives it. So it necessarily really ain't no right or wrong. You know what I'm saying? In the bigger scheme of things, okay? So basically what they was doing ain't really shit in short. The overarching presence of two Americas, one healthy and white and the other filled with sick, disaffected people of color, has haunted our discussions. Scientists who abuse, exploit, and lie to research subjects get more than their share of ink. But I have spent enough time among physician scientists to believe that most American researchers, white and black, are idealistic and skilled. However, When it comes to the abuse of African Americans, a different set of ethical standards has long prevailed, and abusive researchers have historically been closer to the norm than we would like to think. Conventional wisdom pins experimental abuses on the Dr. Frankenstein stereotype, a scientific outcast of dubious pedigree who harbors blatant social or mental maladjustment. But historically, most um, perpetrators of ethically troubling experiments utilizing African Americans have been overachieving adepts with sterling reputations, impressive credentials, and social skills sufficient to secure positions of great responsibility. Let me find my spot. I'm about to keep doing that. So, tell me if y'all feeling like I got this right. Are they basically saying like the doctors who are, experimenting on the black folks, assign hold on. Conventional wisdom pins experimental abuses on the Dr. Frankenstein stereotype, a scientific outcast of dubious pedigree who harbors blatant social or mental maladjustment. But historically, most she's just saying so people like to think that they are these Dr. Frankenstein type people of a dubious pedigree, rich weirdo in this scenario, right? But most of the perpetrators are ethically troubling. Uh-huh. They with sterling reputations. I get it now. Impressive credentials and social skills sufficient enough to secure great responsibility, like Dr. Fauci, for example. Okay. So in some areas he's perceived that way, in others he's of high prestige, right? Okay. So I had to run that back to try to see what she was trying to say. Okay. The stereotype of the abusive researcher as a coolly amoral renegade is a stock figure borrowed by journalism from science fiction. Like all stereotypes, it is one dimensional and therefore false. Professionally and socially, these rogue stars have much more in common with the top strata of other successful American researchers than they do with mythical madmen. In fact, researchers who exploit African Americans were the norm for much of our nation's history, when Black patients were commonly regarded as fit subjects for non consensual, non therapeutic research. This book explores the many reasons that Blacks were so vulnerable, but ultimately, it is because American medical researchers remain racially homogen, remain a racially homogenous group, and I show you how the racial homogeneity of American medical researchers lies at the very heart of the problem. I'm sorry, y'all. I be struggling with this. I know what this shit means, but as I'm reading, I'm like, how come they're not just talking regular? Okay, so we at the last throw, y'all. A final countdown. Taco. I'm gonna have to abuse my cat in front of y'all. Get down. The Curious World of Medical Research. He's hungry and tired, y'all. Just a little bit. Y'all know I had that flood and whatnot, so it just got done. So he hungry, tired, and grouchy. Okay. The Curious World of Medical Research. Ironically, My interest in medical research using African Americans is a direct outgrowth of my long-standing fascination with the more noble history of medicine. In fact, when asked to describe my work, I usually explain I'm a medical voyeur. Nice. I am an admirer of medicine, and when not working alongside physicians in hospital, I have spent decades profiling, describing, and analyzing medical advances and the remarkable people who make them. In my many magazine and newspaper articles and books that celebrate modern medical innovation, I have tried to convey the achievement, mission, and wonder of healers. My greatest challenge has been to avoid descending into frank. We gonna have to look this up. Haggery. I don't know, y'all. Hagio. It's not Hagio. Here it is. Why did it go to shopping, y'all? Hold on. Why she got me reading like this? Hold on.
Hagiography.
Hagiography. Okay. What's that mean? The writing of the lives of saints. Oh, writing about another person. Biography that idolizes its subject.
Hagiography.
Okay. So the my greatest challenge has been to avoid descending into frank.
Hagiography.
Okay, hagiography. This admiration began at the age 8 when Albert Schweitzer's Out of My Life and Thought became my favorite book, but it crystallized while I was an undergraduate at University of Rochester. My favorite floor of the undergraduate genre, swashbuckler. What the fuck is a swashbuckler? Have y'all niggas ever heard of a swashbuckler? Like for real, tell me. I need to know. What the fuck is a swashbuckler? They got it too. Engaging in daring and romantic adventures with bravado or flamboyance. Okay. Swashbucking. uh, where is it? Where's swashbucking? Where the fuck is that? Hold on. Okay. Swashbucking. Okay. Okay. My favorite floor of the undergraduate library housed physicians' memoirs of medical swashbuckler genre that included such titles as My Patients Were Zulus and Burma Doctor. These My Patients Were Zulus and another book called Burma Doctor. These heroic reminiscences of lands populated by Africans and Asians mingled adventure with medical bravado. Nigga, we got another one, y'all. Swashbuckling. The next one is prosystalizing, fronting. Watch it be front, y'all. Watch this be another word. PROSELLYT. Hold on, let's see. There we go.
Proselytizing.
Proselytizing. Okay, y'all. the action of attempting to convert someone from one religion, proselytizing, and constituted a guilty pleasure for me. I pored over them when I should have been reading in the assigned Chaucer or genetics. These readings also constituted a guilty pleasure because although I originally read them as accounts of selfless physicians who cared for people of color, I soon realized these accounts reeked of xenophobia. Most were deeply disdainful of the natives whom physicians bestowed the blessings of Western medicine and Western civilization, because these exploits were distant in time as well as geography. I was less critical than I should have been when they sneered at the ignorant customs of superstitious natives. It all happened so long ago, I thought. Surely those colonial attitudes were dead now. I even made excuses for doctors whose disdainful observations were sprinkled with ethnic slurs, or when they con- congratulated themselves for conducting dramatic, not always benign, experiments upon the unwitting. I excused them on the basis that all this had taken place in an unenlightened past. How could we judge them for abuses conducted under the aegis of yesterday's morals? Aegis, 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 Aegis. Okay, Aegis, under the aegis of yesterday's morals. As the years passed, this became a progressively unsatisfying rationalization, and I eventually abandoned my medical adventures. She, she was she was listening to some Sister Soldier. That's what happened. She got listened to that Sister Soldier album back in the '90s with her revolutionary college friend, and she came in there. We are the people. Changed my life too. Some years later, I opened the drawer and lost the remains of my innocence. I was running a modest poison control center in a teaching hospital in upstate New York. We were poor, toxicologic relations had expanded into a space that had been reluctantly yielded by radiology, a real medical department. When I opened the what kind of drawer was that? Recalcitrant bitch. Hold on, let me do this. Y'all, we are looking up words every sentence. Here it is. Having an hold on. Recalcitrant. Having an obstin hold on. An uncooperative attitude toward authority or discipline. Gonna do two for one, bitch. When I open the broken drawer of a file cabinet, that's what that means. She's saying when I open the recalcitrant. You're doing too much, Harriet, bitch. When I open the broken drawer out of a file cabinet that had been left behind, doesn't that sound the same? A few forgotten medical folders from the 1970s littered its bottom. One contained the file of an older gentleman in imminent kidney failure and focused upon documenting the reams of tests and assessments entailed in finding him a matching kidney for a transplant. The social history stressed his loving family and determination to live. Another file also described the plight of an older man in kidney failure, but it looked different, thinner. The first page I read documented by documented his odyssey into sickness as his kidneys failed. It noted, among other things, that he was retired, insured, and Negro. Nearly every page recorded his race, and someone had underlined it on his social profile, just above the line that indicated that the medical staff's plans for him were not to secure a transplant, but to help him to prepare for it for his in a quote, prepare for his imminent demise. So they wasn't planning him for him to get another kidney. They was planning for him to, and that's what I think happened to my best friend's sister. We was trying to get all the help. We was calling all the hospitals. Can we get her to another place where she could get a better breathing machine? Oh, we can't do that. We can't take her because she would get her on the machine and la 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 la. Right, and then when it was time to take her to hospice, oh, they had all the oxygen in the world to get her to hospice, but you didn't have all the oxygen in the world to get her to another hospital for a second opinion. We should have fought for that, and I still regret that to this day. But we were in such turmoil because it happened so quickly. Um, it was signed by a kind. We got another one. Another one. E R ERUDITE. Another one. Having or showing great knowledge or learning.
Erudite.
Erudite. Kind erudite physician. Okay. How come they didn't say it was signed by a kind, knowledgeable? But no, she had to show out because it was gonna come for her, so she had to flex on the vocab. Okay. I knew it in my okay. It was my erudite physician I knew and admired, and who have actively encouraged my interest in medicine. I could not reconcile his signature with the man I knew, a sensitive scholar with and devout Christian. I should have let her know where he grew up, Mississippi. Oh my God. Probably I thought I was jumping to conclusions, and the patient's race had nothing to do with his failure to be considered for a life saving organ. Oh, that's what I thought. When I haughtily voiced my fears to an African American acquaintance who had worked as a ward clerk in nephrology unit. So that has to be the dead people unit. Let's look it up. Because neph, isn't that dead? NEPH. Let's make a dot H. Here it is. Nephrology. Nephrology. The branch of medicine that deals with the. Oh, okay. It deals with the diseases of the kidneys. Okay. Nephrology does that. In the nephrology unit, she looked at me as if I was not too bright and meant no worlds. Girl, black people, eh, black people don't get organs; they give organs. That's me. That's me at the thing on my phone, like she walking up. Hi, can I get some with this scoop for some organs? Girl, black people don't get no organs. We give organs. The fuck, girl. What else can I do for you, bitch? That's what she did. That's real talk. If that's if real talk and healthy food was a informative person, which is more. Okay. During our ensuing debate, she pointed out to me that the race bias in the hospital where we work should have resolved any doubts. In the early 1980s, most of the Black employees worked in housekeeping and clerical support. Blacks were noticeably scarce among the administrative and medical staffs. Why, she asked, I was naive enough to believe racial bias stopped at the staffing. Hold on. Why, she asked, was I naive enough to believe racial bias stopped at the staffing roster? This was hardly proof, but my discomfort grew as she categorized instance after instance of overt bias and finally declared, I will never have a procedure done here. I've seen too much. To them, if you're Black and poor, you're nothing but a guinea pig. Dang, she kept it a buck 52 plus tax for her. She said, we ain't nothing but a guinea pig. Y'all know they be like, don't go to whoop school, cause bitch, you ain't gonna come back. So I realized that my discomfort with her words went beyond the truth or falsity of her allegations. The mere fact she believed them was unsettling because she had worked in a hospital setting. She was presumably better informed than most, yet she did not trust the medical system and seemed less likely to turn to it when ill. Perception of evil in such cases, I realize, can prove as damaging as malfeasance itself. Uh-huh. So she at the time was one of them snooty bitches who didn't believe what the sister with the acrylics and the weave was saying, although she was kicking facts until she had to learn for herself the hard way. That's fucking and the way she said it, oh, because she's a person who works here, like she just didn't know what she was doing because she was sitting there filing her nails on her phone. Didn't mean she didn't know what she was talking about. Sometimes it don't take all those fancy words to say it. And maybe she was thrown off because they was in a professional setting and it fucked her up because she's super snooty bows. Hey, Tony Jacob. Oh, wait. Hey, Andrea, girl, you coming in under a different name. That's why um elderly people don't trust them, or they cut our feet, fingers, and limbs at the mall. Yeah, that's why take we got to take our health seriously, right? Not experimenting on me, not even my pets. Oh, yo, boo. Okay, so I finally glimpsed that understanding the true extent of unethical medical research with African Americans were more than idle curiosity or an academic exercise. It was key to removing barriers between African Americans and the bounty of American health system. I mean, a bounty of the American health care system. In the hospital's medical library, I discovered a new genre of physician confessional literature, one that described Black patients excuse me, not in Africa, but here in the United States. Unlike African book length exploits, these often consisted of a revealing passage or two in an autobiography, a few pages in a memoir, or an article in 19th century medical journal. I recognized in these Western accounts of Black American patients the very same stereotypes um, bellboard in African accounts. References in American physicians' memoirs, journals, articles were studied with telling um, vignettes and observations of their Black patients. The stories physicians told mixed stereotype comedy with exasperation, as they dismissed Blacks as disease ridden, unintelligent. This is so sad. Unintelligent, fearful, distrustful, and above all, non compliant patients. By non-compliant doctors meant patients who could not be trusted to follow medical advice or even act intelligently in their own best medical interests. I realized that such negative presumptions hampered physicians' ability to care for Black patients or even to see them as worthy of the same excellent care rendered to others. For their part, for their part, the Black patients I met and interviewed share their own medical lore, which warned against trusting Western medical practices, physicians, a matrix they characterize as racist, rape, rapacious, rapacious, and eager to exploit Black bodies for medical gain at the cost of health. Thus, the um, disparate narratives African Americans and physicians tell unveil a state of undeclared war or, at best, an uneasy truce between physicians and their patients. And you know what? I find myself in these crosshairs with my own family because, like, even my own mom, like, when I had sepsis, just like the doctors and shit like that, they were so thirsty, including my mom, that I had the package, and really it was sepsis. You know what I'm saying? Which meanwhile, while they're sitting up there thirsty for corona, right? My blood is being poisoned by an infection that could have really taken me out. So instead of taking into account what the fuck I was saying to that stupid motherfucker, he just dismissed me because I was a non-compliant patient who wasn't just going to let him experiment on me with that stupid ass fucking test. Anyway, but I knew that analyzing the history of African Americans as research subjects would necessitate more than a familiarity with history and contemporary medical literature, a sound understanding of basic medical sciences and medical cultures, regulations, protocols, research, design, and procedures will also be necessary. This would require a research plan, enabling me to ferret out studies in a wide variety of disciplines and subjects. Finally, I would have to speak to medical researchers, subjects, patients about sensitive experiments at that time, around 1980. Around that time in 1980, data on racial health disparities was sparse and anecdotal. And in any event, I felt unqualified to take on such a daunting task. I had some grounding in the basic medical sciences, but having abandoned my pre medical studies, my knowledge was incomplete. However, I occupied a good vantage point from which to observe, accrue, an understanding of medical research culture. I had worked in hospitals for a decade in positions ranging from ward clerk to laboratory technician to department manager, and in venues ranging from animal laboratory to cancer research laboratories to psychiatric emergency department to poison control center. The physicians from who I worked openly discussed their work with me and were more forthcoming with me as a lowly clerk or technician that they would have been with a journalist. Uh-huh. So they motherfucking just dismissed her like a lowly worker. Meanwhile, she's like, memo to me, don't trust that new nigga over there. I eventually left the hospital to work as an inner city medical social worker in constant in ensconced in settings where I constantly talk to African American clients and their caregivers about their beliefs and behaviors concerning medical care and research. I worked as a journalist, most notably as a news editor and science editor. at a metropolitan newspaper for 7 years, including a brief stint at USA Today. After that, I worked as a medical journalist, a columnist, and a contributing editor for several national magazines. My work was published by the New York Times Syndicate and appeared in popular publications as diverse as Health, USA Today, Essence, Psychology, and Psychology Today. Okay, girl. All right. I was also published in academic publications such as Harvard Public Health Review, Nature, and the American Journal of Public Health. And I edited the Harvard Journal of Minority Public Health, an especially valuable experience. A monthly medical column that I wrote for Emerge magazine gave me experience in framing the issue this book explores for a general audience, and it opened a conduit for numerous first person testimonies as well. So she did it for the regular folks and the regular folks story. Okay. I'm right, girl. On a parallel track, I attained a firm scientific background by completing a pre medical course and medical school courses in immunology, toxicology, and neuroscience. As I took classes with the medical and doctoral students and postdocs, they became my best sources by relating contemporary research that they had participated in. Often they confessed to being troubled by ethical concerns, and this validated my anxiety about some disquieting trends in the commercialization of medical care and in what I increasingly perceived as an erosion of informed consent to research. Academic institutions, including Stanford, Maryland, and the Medical University of Lubeck, invited me to share with their scholars what I was learning about the hidden history of experimentation with African Americans. At the same time, I embarked upon a Harvard Medical School fellowship in medical ethics. We addressed thorny issues in the philosophy and policy of medical research and engaged in a wealth of reading seminars with important experts. But is my own assessment of these studies, informed by my medical ethics training, that form the basis of the ethical analysis in this work. They stand or fall on my own logic and historical knowledge. The the scope and structure of medical apartheid. I was determined that apartheid not be a simplistic black hats, black whites story, which African Americans are passive victims and researchers are always villains. Instead, the book takes a frank but more nuanced look at the calculus of racism's effects on the experimental practice. I have attempted to write a social history that traces the key role that various researchers have placed in both excuse me, promulgating, promulgating and refusing racism in medicine. It was I'm sorry, y'all. It was impossible and undesirable to incorporate every instance of racialized experimental abuse that I unearthed. This would have resulted in a long jury checklist of horrors and little useful insight. The bulk of questionable experimentation upon African Americans is not detailed here because much of it consists of operations and therapeutics that were ostensibly attempt meant to cure attempts to heal that transgress against ethical rules by dramatically escalating dosages and techniques or that involve non-marital breaches of consent are still wrong and risky. But they concern me less because they are sometimes products of honest error and because the intent is still to help or heal. This book focuses more heavily upon experiments with mammoth risk, little or no therapeutic content, or no possible benefit to the subjects, and upon mere attempts at exploitation to perfect medications, procedures, and techniques. So she's like, we ain't talking about that little shit. We talking about the elephant in the room shit, and that's it, and that's all. And where these motherfuckers intentionally use black folks for their own dubious intent. Okay. Therefore, this book is not a complete. These words sometimes I fuck up. Chronological, chronologic, chrono. It ain't in chronological order, y'all. Of historical and contemporary issues in medical history with African Americans, illustrated by important cases. I also broach a discussion of such previously ignored history themes as, excuse me, as the fact that fraud is often a traveling part of racial abusive research. I also explore the history of African Americans in experimentation intended to support unflattering racial stereotypes and beliefs. African Americans have been used, for example, to perfect the IQ test that would inferior to improve them inferior in intelligence, to a triple devise a triple Nemo test that would prove them ridden with distinctive strains of syphilis, and to perform the full skin and visceral dissection that would prove that blackness or NiiiiGhT is a permanent mark of biological inferiority that exists independent of skin color. And that's it. Yeah. Huh? The who? I'm live. Did I put what? You gotta talk loud. Did you feel the house shake, or was that just the house shook? But hold on, y'all. I gotta pause for the calls. House shook? No, I didn't feel that. Did you hear anything? Okay, are you okay in there? Oh no, I didn't feel it. No, I was. That's scary. What's so good? I can't hear nothing. I don't know either. No, I didn't feel nothing. Let me ask Greco. Well, yeah, I'm gonna ask Greco. I'm gonna leave my door open. If something weird happens, just run in here. Um, we gotta wait till tomorrow till it's hot. Yeah, we can do all the regular stuff, but it's just we gotta wait till tomorrow night till it gets hot because it was so much water. Oh yeah. Yeah, you can fly. All right. Okay. 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 I gotta go. Okay, I'm gonna leave it. Sorry, y'all. Auntie duties. Auntie duties. You know, I had the niece. The niece, we good. We good. Hold on. Oh, hey, we got somebody else. Tony Jig. Okay. Let me see. What y'all talking about? Are y'all going to take the hold on. I love how you break things down to help us understand. Thank you. You're welcome. Are you going to take the vaccine? We're not. They're not experimenting on us. I think that's why they wanted us to do it. A girl who, yeah, exactly. I think that's what happened to Hank Aaron. Don't start Taco. I think that's what happened to Hank Aaron. January the 6th took the shot, tried to tell black folks to take the shot. January 22nd, kicked the bucket. He was 86. What the hell you doing all of that? Let's see. I'm not me and my children. I know that's right, Shonda. Like when black men given a shot of VD, shot of a VD, don't remember with, and they keep coming back from pain problems, and it didn't help them to see right. That's it. What's going on in Earth? Probably. I don't know, but it's snowing a lot. I don't know if y'all can see all the snow on the ground. It snowed a lot. I hope it's not no ill shit going on. It's not. It stopped snowing. So let's see how much pages we got left, y'all. Oh snap! Let's pump through these last pages. But the niece is cool. Mom Dukes is checked, and oh shit, we only got. Oh, we could pump through this right quick. I didn't mean for it to be no 2 and some hours. I guess that's gonna be the reading time frame. So let's see, it's 9:30. Usually I'm in the bed by this time. So listen, y'all, we're gonna change the date. We're gonna change not the date. We gotta change the time. Because if it takes 2.5 hours to break this down, then we're gonna have to start at 6:30. So I'm just gonna keep it a buck 52. I'll make sure I re-announce it again, 6:30. Oh, I'm gonna be competing with my girl. I pushed it to 7 something because I like to watch Vicky Diller because she gives me hype. You know what I'm saying? But I'm gonna have to do it at 6:30 because I got a job. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I got to do. And then I gotta feed my taco, get the house together. I work for the landlord, girl. It's just a lot. So and we had this emergency. So but Wednesdays and Thursdays, six starting at 6:30. What y'all think? 6:30 cool? We'll be like 6, 6:15, 6:30. Because if I'm feeling hyped, then I'm popping in. If I just need a little minute, then 6:30. So we'll do 6:15 to 6:30 instead of 7 to 7:15. Let me write that down. 6:15 to 6:30. Yeah, 6:15 to 6:30. Let's get back to it. I finally glimpsed at the understanding of this. Okay. All right, y'all. We almost up through. Hold on. Oh, we just got 2 pages. Okay. Let me bump through this so we can talk. Huh. The scope and structure. Oh no, we got one more page. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I didn't know we was that far. Yeah, we got 2 pages. Yeah. Some other important medical issues have been excluded from this work because they spell outside the strictest thematic boundaries of African Americans in medical research. Despite the long and rich history of medical abuse in African and other third world countries, much of it conducted by U.S. researchers, there is no chapter detailing such research in this book. Why? In one sense, this is akin to discussing Jewish issues without discussing Israel. That's deep. Um, House of Numbers. Oh, I wrote that down. And what else did I want to write down? It was something else. Okay, House of Numbers though. Okay, I'm sorry, y'all, but I just had a thought. But the sweeping history of each research is far too extensive to address in a single chapter, especially because it's a burgeoning rather than abating. Similarly, it is impossible to capture completely the important work of African American medical researchers in a single chapter. I have reluctantly deferred a discussion of this neglected subject, both for space reasons and because Black researchers have tended to engage in therapeutic research rather than in the troubled investigations that are subject of this work. Medical Apartheid consists of 15 chapters organized into three parts. Part one, a troubling tradition. A troubling tradition is part one, takes a chronological approach to the role of African Americans in early American medicine. It stresses the experimental abuse and exploitation of African Americans from the first encounters in the New World through to post Civil War era, and then up until the Tuskegee syphilis study, which began in 1932. Part two, the usual subjects. It's force of habit because I used to listen to rap in the 90s. Usual suspects. The usual subjects covers the period from the early 20th century to present day in a roughly chronological manner. However, it departs from the strict chronology. Hold on, let me find out how to say this word, y'all, so I don't keep embarrassing myself. Taco, you're going to eat in 1 second. We almost done. I'm hungry too. Speaking of which, this is. I. Oh, wait, hold on, y'all.
Chronology.
Chronology. Why did. Anyway, chronology. I knew that. Chronology. It departs from strict chronology in favor of an analysis of specific types of vulnerable subjects, children, soldiers, and hospital patients, used in research conducted by institutions ranging from the federal government to private corporations. Part three, race, technology, and medicine. Five, four, three. Okay, too much Janet Jackson. Examines contemporary research issues, including genetic research, investigations into emerging diseases, and bioterrorism. In the I hate when I see words that I know and I forget how to say them. Don't judge me. Please don't judge me.
Epilogue.
Epilogue. Excuse me. In the epilogue, medical research with Blacks today, I discuss how the worst abuses have been replaced by more subtle threats to the rights of the individual to choose whether and when to participate in medical research. Finally, the appendix directs readers to a wealth of guidelines and regulations to help them navigate clinical trials. Okay, why research issues still matter? Why do centuries of mutual distrust over medical research matter today? What does the sad history of exploitative experimentation augur for Black health? Y'all, I'm talking about when we get to the end of this book, we going to be the illest talking people. We going to be able to take it from the hood to Gala in 2.0. An event of circumstance with a good or bad outcome. Auger. 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 Okay. Epilogue with the brains choose. Dang, y'all, I hate when I do that. What does the sad history of exploitative experimentation augur for Black health? What the French see in wine, Americans see in healthcare. Mused Robert J. Blendon, PhD, professor of health policy and political analysis at the Harvard School of Public Health. Americans consider access to excellent health and even the most expensive means of maintaining it their birthright. Oh, okay. Americans consider access to excellent health and even the most extensive means of maintaining it their birthright. Americans enjoy ever burgoing longevity, extravagant nutrition, and everyday access to superb medical care, including expensive high technology interventions from CAT scans on demand to new hips to keep us on the tennis courts and new hearts to keep us in the game. We demand the best care, including novel and experimental therapies. I want to see something because they always say novel. You notice how they be saying the novel Corona? Girl, it says a fictitious prose narrative of book length, typically representing a character action of some degree of realism. The literary genre represented are exemplified by novels. Novel, new or unusual in an interesting way. He hit on a novel idea to solve his financial problems. Oh, okay. Well, it has two different meanings. Okay. I noticed that too. Okay, let's get back to it so we can get out of here. Therapies. Okay. Our devotion to the very latest expensive remedies for increasingly marginal medical gains has many Americans bumping up against the law of diminishing returns. At the same time, medical experts of every persuasion agree that African Americans share the most deplorable health profile in the nation by far, one that resembles that of a third world country. When Dr. Harold Friedman observed that the health status of Harlem men resembles that of Bangladesh's more closely than of their Manhattan neighbors. He did not exaggerate. So he's saying them fools in Harlem, they medical record is more related to somebody in Bangladesh than Manhattan. Y'all know that's a 30-minute drive, right? That's ill. He did not exaggerate. Twice as many American babies as babies of other ethnic groups die before their first birthday. 1.5 times as many African adults as white adults die every year. Damn, blacks have dramatically higher rates of nearly every cancer of AIDS. House of numbers, house of numbers. We doing American skin this weekend, y'all. This weekend, another movie night. I'll announce the day. Please look for it. And House of Numbers will be next week because we're going to talk about AIDS. Yes, we are. Of heart. Okay, so they die high of heart. We die of higher rates nearly every cancer of AIDS, heart disease, diabetes, liver disease, infectious diseases, and they can even suffer from high rates of accidental death, homicide, and mental illness before they die young in droves from imminently preventable diseases. African Americans also suffer far more devastating but equally preventable disease complications such as blindness, confinement to wheelchairs, and limb loss. The studies continue to demonstrate that far from sharing in the bounty of American medical technology, African Americans are often bereft of high technology care, even for life threatening conditions such as heart disease. The much bewailed racial health gap is not a gap, but a chasm wider and deeper than a massive grave. This gulf has riven our nation so dramatically that it appears as if we are considering the health profiles of people in two different countries. A medical apartheid. And she pauses. The two different countries. A medical apartheid, period. Researchers have proffered a cornucopia of theories for this medical divide, many of which focus upon putative biological dimorphisms, especially genetic differences. But in dissecting the shameful medical apartheid, an important cause is usually neglected. This history of ethical flawed medical experimentation with African Americans. Such research has played a pivotal role. Sorry, I'm running over these sentences, y'all, but these words be throwing me off, okay? So such research has played a pivotal role in forging the fear of medicine that helps perpetuate our nation's racial health gulf. Historically, African Americans have been subjected to exploitative, abusive, involuntary experimentation at a rate far higher than other ethnic groups. Thus, although the heightened African American wariness of medical research and institutions reflects a situational hypervigilance, it is neither a baseless fear of harm of hypervigilance. It is neither a baseless fear of harm nor a fear of imaginary harms. A paranoid label is often affixed to Blacks who are wary of participating in medical research. However, not only is paranoid a misnomer, but it is also symbolic of a dangerous misunderstanding. That is why I refer to African American fears of medical professionals and institutions as troph- iatrophobia. Another one. Hold on, y'all. I ain't never seen this word before in my life. I she broke it down too. Hold on, y'all. This is the phobia I got. Girl, I forgot how to spell it. I it's IATRO and then phobia. TRO, which is PHOBIA. Okay, let's find out, y'all. Okay, so we're gonna have to break it down like she did to get the definition of what that word is. Iotros, which means healer. I need to know how to say it. Here it is.
Yatros.
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 Yatros. Yatrovia. Yatro. Yat. Yatrophy. phobia, coined from the Greek words coined from the Greek words iatros, healer, and phobia, fear. Black fear of doctors, no. Black iatrophia phobia is the fear of medicine. Even those who investigate the role of medical ethics and medical policy are trying to dissect and analyze the much decried African American aversion to medical research without understanding the history that created the aversions. Facts, though. I was just about to say, like, bitch, how you going? The historical cause of the racial health gap has been only credibly and corrosely examined and is usually reduced to a knee-jerk responses to the Tuskegee syphilis study, as if this were the only instance of problematic medical experimentation. But scores of historical events connected with the medical research have plagued Black Americans and affected their health seeking behavior. This historical silence is a grave omission because trying to ameliorate African American health without understanding the pertinent history of medical care is like trying to treat a patient without eliciting thorough medical history and hazards, and probably a futile approach. The last part, and finally, kill the messenger. In fact, some otherwise well-meaning people wish to censor any analysis of troubled research with African Americans. As I discovered firsthand to my great surprise, I was elated when a professor at a U.S. medical school summoned me to her office, explaining that she wanted to hear all about the book I was writing. Another one. We're so close. I'm not going to lose my spot. Y'all, it's E, the next word. We're gonna be looking up words all through this book. I told y'all, you're gonna need a notepad, a pen, a highlighter if you got the book. If you're following along with the book. Wait. Okay. It's ENSCONED. Bam.
Ensconce.
Ensconced. I said it right earlier. Ensconced in a chair. The hero about the book I was writing. Ensconced in a chair, I eagerly began to describe my work, only to be cut off before I had completed the first sentence. Bolting upright in her chair, she vehemently informed me that the topic of this book was taboo. Quote, it's a terrible thing that you're doing. You are going to make African Americans afraid of medical research and physicians. You cannot write this book, she glared at me. End quote. She glared at me. Her face became contorted with anger, suffused with blood. So it wasn't infused, bitch. It was suffused. What does that mean? It came from the inside out? Because if you infuse, you put it outside in. Suffused. Let's find out. It was suffused, bitch. Jack, she was pissed. Gradually spread through all over. Her cheeks were suffused with color. Oh, your girl be knowing. Your girl be knowing. Suffused with blood. Let's see if I say it right.
Suffuse.
Ah, suffused with blood. And her breathing grew rapid. For a moment, I was stunned in the silence because nothing had prepared me for her reaction. She's like, girl, bitch, I'm trying to. After all, freedom of speech and academic freedom are sacred in this country. Ah. I was also a bit surprised that a white academic whose discussions and syllabus had evinced no interest or expertise in the matter should lecture me. An experienced African American medical writer about health communication with African Americans. So why would you present her with this information if she's not even, it's not even part of her daily process or thoughts. So this is second nature to her. So well, maybe that's all she had. She proceeded to inform me that there had been no medical research utilizing African Americans before the Tuskegee syphilis. Oh, then she's just a dummy. Certainly not the antebellum past. And when I asked her how she knew this, she countered, "Can you prove that there was?" See, that's why there's chicks like Harriet and chicks like your girl. It would have been a fight now. When I responded simply, yes, she disgorged a clumsy inquisition, unleashing a barrage of questions that showed she knew nothing about the subject at hand. I responded that my work was well researched, okay, and that she had raised an interesting question. Was it indeed my work that would make African Americans wary of healthcare and medical research? Or had the work of those whose abuses I proposed to chronicle already archived this? Oh, or had the work of those whose abuses to chronicle I propose to chronicle already archived this. Wow. The answer was all too obvious. I knew from years as a medical social worker, a medical journalist, and a researcher that Black Americans did not need me or anyone else to inculate a fear of medicine. Medical history and practices had long since done so. Medical apartheid is my attempt to document, at long last, as fully as possible, how and why this is happening. Yes, Harriet, bitch. Yes, Harriet. So she's like, not only is it true, bitch, I'm going to document it with facts, with the elephant in the room examples of what the fuck Black folks is talking about. So don't come over here with a yeah, because I got factuals on deck. Oh, I am hyped about this book. Y'all, that was just the introduction. You see why we're doing 2 chapters a week? Girl, girl, girl. That was a lot. And I didn't even read the girl. So I think these vocabulary words that I got here, these ones are from chapter 1. So I'm gonna put them here so we could be ahead of the game a little bit. But y'all, did you see all those vocabulary words we had? Like, yo, first of all, so let's go in order like I said at the beginning. First of all, the first vocabulary word, bas relief, we found out was art, okay? Eponymous gynecological instruments. So we found out eponymous it's a namesake, okay? Aloof, well, we know what that is, okay. Um, Acquiesce. As an independent scholar, I could not acquiesce to this, and I used another cover image. I forgot what that meant. Acquiesce. So there's a whole lot. I'm not gonna go through all of them because it took a lot for us to get to where we are now.
Acquiesce.
Acquiesce. I fucked that up. Acquiesce. 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 Accept something reluctantly, but without protest. So, okay, that makes more sense now. I said acquiesce. Watch that be somebody's real name in real life. Acquiesce. What's your name? Acquiesce, bitch. So, y'all, okay, so those vocabulary words are something vicious. I don't know if we just got some genius Care Bears. Just let me, girl. I heard something downstairs. Oh, they're coming upstairs. So, okay, we got through the vocabulary. So, how it relates to current times, I think we went through that bit by bit. So, we don't need to go through that. Um, and how to be proactive in voicing in our own health. So, henceforth, why we're doing the eliminating diet. Okay, even though I had a dirty salad yesterday, don't judge me. We just don't waste food over here. Okay, but being I think this is a good reason to and a reason to be proactive with your health, your food, the things that you ingest and shit, because look at how the odds are stacked up against us. And also with the vaccines and everything, um, the vaccines was the reason why I wanted to get back into this book, because look how they're experimenting on us now. Look what happened to Hank Aaron. Look what happened to that nurse off in Tennessee. Look at what happened to so many other people, even outside of the vaccines. But that was the push behind it. The nurse off in Tennessee whose face got all jacked up. I did the video about it. She did her own video and shit. And what was I going to say? Even the lady who there was a lady who went to the hospital saying she wasn't feeling good, and they tried to say that one shit wrong with her. They tried to send her home, and she's like, I don't give a fuck. I'm not going home. You know what I'm saying? And then they ended up locking her up, and she died in the back of the police car before they could even leave the motherfucking hospital. It reminds me of this one time I had a panic attack. I went to the hospital. It was a Christmas, and I had a panic attack. And I remember my heart racing on that machine, and I just knew I was gonna fucking die, yo. And no offense, but my brother was of no help. So that's why I say, if you do go to the hospital, make sure you bring somebody who ride or dies for your ass. Okay, don't be bringing nobody who's playing no games, who don't play about you. Whoever that is for you in your life, it could be anybody. It don't even got to be blood related. But if you know them motherfuckers that die about you, that's the person that you need to bring with you, because it's not a game. It hasn't been a game. It ain't a game today. And I'm here to let you know. This time last year, your girl was in the hospital for a week straight, and that's on everything. So you know what I'm saying? So yeah, and they was trying to hit me with some other shit. You know what I'm saying? So yeah. So I think we went through everything. So let me go through this chat right quick, because I'm gonna have to get off here. It's 10 o'clock my time. And make sure y'all slide through tomorrow between 6:15 and 6:30 tomorrow. I think that's better. And it's better for myself. So let's go in here and see who we talk. Andrea girl. That was, yeah, the black nurse from Tennessee. Think they do prisoners like that too. They do. That's what it mentioned earlier in the introduction. Oh, what I was thinking too with the MK Ultra, they choose the underclass. I was watching this documentary about MK Ultra. One day I just spent the whole day researching it. Taco's over here grouchy. I'm gonna show y'all Taco, and me and Taco about to be out. Hey, Taco Bear, come here. 6 p.m. Word. Okay, no problem. Okay, okay. Yeah, I'm famished. I didn't eat on time. I did not eat on time. This is day 3. But I tend to stick to the other parts if I'm not distracted. So, yeah, it's the dinner part that's difficult. So I'm gonna have to rearrange that. I might have to do like the first part of the day, doing the eliminating diet. But at the end of the day, I don't know. That's too much to commit to. But I'm gonna see what I do today. But my mind's already thinking up some other stuff. So yeah, are you guys doing the elimination diet? Are you like, nah, sis? You gonna have to catch me when you eat regular food again. Come here, Taco Latte. Can you hear him? Come here, baby. Come here. Come on. Wow, he's so rude. Look at here he is. So this little say hi. Look how huge he's gotten. Oh, he's a monster. Oh, he's ready to go. Yeah, I got him in the middle of hunting. So in the middle of hunting. So and he's ready to eat. So we gotta go. You're gonna see him in a minute. It's just a late reaction. But I gotta feed Taco. I gotta feed myself. Thank you so much for coming through, y'all. I am so happy to see y'all. Um the day ones, the new ones, okay? And thank you for sticking with it with me to the end. I appreciate it. It keeps me going. Tomorrow we're gonna hit chapter one. That was just the introduction. And then this weekend, y'all, we're gonna do American Skin, and we're gonna do that. Okay, so I gotta go to the fam. I'm supposed to have a date on Sunday. Mm, we'll see how that works. So we're gonna do American Skin Saturday night, and it's gonna be late. So I'm gonna just let y'all know. So in case y'all come through, it's gonna be Saturday night, late night, and I gotta see what's going on downstairs, y'all. Oh, American Skin. I'll re-announce it again. I'll make it official on the gram before I delete it, and I'll make sure I give y'all everything y'all need to know. And then until tomorrow, I'll see you on the next one. Peace, love, and hair grease, and all that jazz. And please share if you dare, share if you dare, share if you care, especially if you're a mother. Okay? Okay. I'm out. Peace.